Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Always great turf action at Kentucky Downs. It's the start of fall and the Tourist Mile on Saturday, part of a stakes-laden card that you can bet with a DRF Bets account. Sign up, get 10 times the bonus at drf.com/bet. Here's the field for the $750,000 Tourist Mile Stakes over that European configurated course at Kentucky Downs. We've got a field of 8. There are some rock-solid horses all over the place. Let's begin with Wesley Ward's number 2, Master Marion, because you and I, when we talk about Kentucky Downs each fall, we like horses for courses, and Master Marion was very impressive, winning here last year, albeit over yielding ground.
Not only, well, yeah, and you're right, the yielding ground needs to be acknowledged, but I think the thing that was most impressive about that race, when he won that stakes race, he did it in a totally different sort of fashion than we're accustomed to seeing Master Marion. Usually you see this horse much more forward, close to the pace. That day, they were very content taking him back, and he made a big, giant move. You have to always consider and respect the horses that have had success at Kentucky Downs, and I think you have to do the same here again this year with this horse. I think he has a legitimate chance in here. I'm not going to hold that run over at Ascot against him. I think he's going to come in here in good shape. Wesley Ward usually does very well at this meeting. I would expect nothing more, or nothing less anyway, from a Ward horse here at Kentucky Downs.
I think you could make an argument that he's a little bit dirtied up, because that allowance race 3 back was his first start off a little bit of a layoff. He earned a career best Buyer speed figure. He ran into a next out winner and offering plan. The Hanshin Cup, that was one of those situations. Off slow, rush into a fast pace. That wasn't going to work out. And he was just overmatched at Royal Ascot last time out. He looks like a really solid middle price contender in here, and he should get a solid pace. It's nice to know that he can sit from off the pace. Timeform US has a red bar attached to its pace projector, which indicates they think the pace will be fast. And one of the horses that should be on the pace is the number 4, Mr. Cub, the pace setter last time out in the restricted lure stakes. Now, he stumped very badly in that race, but all of the Saratoga turf races, it seems, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, weirdly run wet turf courses. I just think some horses didn't handle them, and I think if you just throw that race out, Mr. Cub's 2 prior efforts at Churchill Downs are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even you can really make the case for his last 3 races, going back to that one at Keeneland coming off the layoff. It's an instance where he can be forwardly placed, but he's not dependent on the lead. He can sit off of a target if someone else is intent on going. He's another one that we have to acknowledge the record at Kentucky Downs. He has a victory there in 2 lifetime starts. I agree with you. Draw a line through the lure. You hope he got a little bit of fitness out of it. If that's the case, he's very interesting. Michael
Maker's a great trainer, and he usually knows where to place his horses, but I think even he is a bit confused and frustrated with Camelot Kitten. This horse won the Kentucky Cup Classic over a synthetic track. There aren't that many opportunities on synthetic tracks in the United States after that race. They ran him in the Grade 1, Turf Classic at Churchill Downs. He's overmatched there. Then they turn him back to 7. Then they run him at 1.5 miles. Now they're running him at Kentucky Downs. Last time out, Patrick Husband's his hand was forced. There was no pace. He tried to mid-move, and the horse flattened out. He's a little bit better, I think, than he looks on paper.
He might be. I've never been a fan. Right. He's just the kind of horse that it feels like, for whatever reason, he's just a bit of an underachiever. And I can't help but notice what you brought up, that Kentucky Cup Classic. That was, to me anyway, very clearly the best race that he's had. Get him back to synthetic, send him up to Woodbine, do something along those lines. Again, Mike Maker is as sharp as they come. I'm sure they take a shot here. If he runs well, great. Maybe you move on to Keeneland. If he doesn't, there's got to be another race somewhere up at Woodbine, because we've still got a few more months of that meeting.
I like that Bill Mott gave Krampus some time off after his most recent start, because that just seemed like a really gut-busting performance where he pressed the pace hard towards the inside. He then raided back and attacked from off of the rail. He was in between horses, and he was all out to win by a nose over a pretty good field. The 4th place horse came back to win with a 91 Buyer speed figure. He's versatile. I think he's going to come from off the pace, and he's still so lightly raised, it's possible we haven't seen his best.
I like Krampus. I think he's interesting in here. Like you say, that most recent start's come back good. The runner-up also came back to earn a 90 Buyer. I like the versatility, too. This horse can be up there pressing the pace, or they can take him back and make one run. The interesting thing is it's going to be fascinating to see how he handles Kentucky Downs, because it's one thing to be able to handle the sort of more traditional configuration that we have here in the States. It's another thing to be going uphill and downhill and sideways and all sorts of different things. And what kind of running style is he going to bring to the table off of this kind of layoff? I'm going to be interested to see what we get.
I'm interested in what running style Great Wide Open brings to the table, because he's run some nice races when on the lead, most notably 2 starts back, most notably earlier in the year when a winner at the Fairgrounds. Taken off the pace last time out in the Mystic Lake Mile at Canterbury, he didn't run as well. The runner-up of that race is one of your favorites, Hey Dakota. He's a horse that right now is kind of settled in the mid-80s range from a buyer's standpoint. Great Wide Open, 20-1 on the morning line, maybe a little bit overmatched here, but I wonder if he's more of a pace presence than we were expecting.
Yeah, maybe you get an effort similar to the 1-2 starts back, where they are forward and you see he's cutting out, roughly that 24-second kind of fraction. And again, how that translates over to Kentucky Downs, it remains to be seen. But I agree, maybe you get him into the run a little bit earlier, and perhaps that gives him his best opportunity to win. Having said that, I don't love the form that he's been in recently, and I know he comes off of a bit of a layoff, but he's the kind of horse that I would sit back and wait and watch.
Bandar was well beaten in this race last year at 66-1. He is making his 3rd start of the form cycle. He has shown the ability to be close to fast paces. I wonder if actually they take him back this time around and hope for a 1-run close into a nice piece of this big pot.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think for the connections, Bandar, in my opinion, only has 1 race on his page that makes him mildly competitive. That's at 93 that he earned at Keeneland last October. Otherwise, I just don't think he's fast enough.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Tourist Mile. I believe they're the 2 most talented horses in the race. Your pick, the number 1, Mr. Misunderstood, might be the most talented at this distance.
Yeah, and again, the distance is one thing when you're doing it at Keeneland, or you're doing it at Churchill Downs, or you're doing it at Ellis Park like he did last time. How's he going to handle a mile at Kentucky Downs? That's a whole different story. I just like the fact that he has some versatility. He can be forwardly placed. He can come from a little bit farther off of it. I think he's run better than it may look in some instances, particularly that run 3 back in the Makers 46 mile. Thought he ran much better than it looks on paper. And I thought that most recent start at Ellis Park, you can say that he pulled a perfect trip. I'm not going to argue with you, but you know what? When you've got that kind of tactical ability and the versatility, generally good horses make their own trip. And I think he's that perfect sort of example. Be interesting to see what they do with him here. I wonder if he is forward but not pushing the pace. I think they're going to look at it and say, we're on one of the best horses. We can adapt.
I think you make a great point. Yes, he got a great trip last time out, but this horse just makes a habit out of getting good trips because he has tactical speed. He's won 10 of 13 starts on the turf. I think Flo probably pulls another good trip, and I think he's the horse to beat. I'm just fascinated that Wesley Ward's running this horse here, bound for nowhere, at this distance, over this testing ground, when you've got to be at least concerned somewhat about the distance. His race in the Shakertown back in the spring, I know it was over soft going. It was one of the more visually impressive performances by a turf sprinter this year. I mean, he whipped Disco Partner, a horse that came back to win, what was it, the Jaipur for the 2nd year in a row at Belmont. They threw him at Royal Ascot. He ran great in a Group 1 race over there, going 6 furlongs. I'm not so sure he's this speed-crazy nutball that Stretching Out's just going to be out there on the lead. I think they're going to try to sit with him. From a problem with a betting standpoint is A, he's the 2nd choice. B, Wesley Ward has in his hip pocket the ability to turn this horse back in distance. 1 race at Keeneland, then the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. If he wins here, it's cake.
Yeah, and really, that was the only thing that held me back from being more interested in him. I have him as one of my top picks in this spot, understandable. I don't know how is he going to handle the additional distance, because we've never seen him do it before. And of all places to try to stretch out in distance, here, I'm a little bit curious to see. Perhaps he's going to do it very, very easily. It was just one of those things where, considering the price that he's likely to be in, like you also said, he's also got in the back pocket that if this doesn't work, you turn him back in distance, you're going to have a really fit horse ready to go. You can't knock what he's done on the racetrack. He's very, very talented. He deserves to be one of the favorites. I don't know what we're going to get as far as his ability to stay the distance.
I went 8-1, 7-3, but I'm leaning on Bound for Nowhere and especially Mr. Misunderstood in any kind of multiple race wagers. Give me numbers.
We went 1-7-8-2. I think Mr. Misunderstood is the horse to beat, arguably, but I'm also interested in Krampus a little bit. I'm going to be fascinated to see how they decide to ride him off this little layoff.
It's the $750,000 Tourist Mile, the feature race on a really great card at Kentucky Downs on Saturday. You can bet it with a DRF Bets account. You get 10 times the sign-up bonus when you sign up at drf.com/bet. An approximate post time for the Tourist Mile, 5:26 Central. Good luck.